Well, the IPL is certainly heating up. We saw perhaps the game of the tournament in Ahmedabad over the weekend. We've now seen another last ball finish in Bangalore last night. After 16 games, only 2 teams remain winless. One of those will get some points and get on the board tonight as the Delhi Capitals play the Mumbai Indians, where it's all to play for at the Arun Jaitley Stadium. We look ahead to that on ESPN again for T20 Timeout with Ravi Shastri in the house. Good evening, Ravi. And I'm not sure which camp you'd rather be in right now. Maybe it's a good thing that Delhi and Mumbai are playing each other, given they find their opposition in perhaps as much pressure as themselves.
Yeah. And, it's a point of no return for both sides, really, because this tournament is moving very quickly. You cannot leave it for too late. You lose 3 games on the trot and then, all the doubts creep into your mind. And to bounce back from there is not easy. We've seen Mumbai Indians do it in the past, but let's not forget the kind of players they had at that time. They had an aura about them. They had a presence. There was that fear factor when teams played Mumbai. That doesn't exist anymore. Sure. So, teams will come out hungry and wanting to prove a point, and as would Delhi, because, this is not the kind of start Ricky Ponting would be happy with. He knows there's talent there. He knows he's got the ammunition and the firepower. And he'd like to set the record straight in a home game.
Yeah, we'll give you team news on the big question on Jofra Archer in just a little while, but when it's a recurring right elbow niggle, you're not overly optimistic. Let's have a conversation about Mumbai and their resources, whether Jofra plays or not. We saw it in the game at Chinnaswamy. You were there for that game, Ravi. Even with Jofra Archer, it's not like one guy can solve your bowling woes.
No. Now, you need a combined effort.
Yeah.
I mean, Rohit Sharma mentioned at the presentation in the last game that it's time for senior players to take the responsibility and take the mantle, in their own hands, including himself.
Yeah.
He said that because, 20s, 30s, we've seen too many of 20s and 30s from Rohit. You want him to carry on, get that 70, 80, which can have a huge impact on the way Mumbai Indians perform. Because a captain scoring runs, will make not just his job easier, but it'll lift the spirits of the dugout very, very quickly. So, for Rohit to fire, I think it's very important.
I'm so glad you bring up Rohit, because it was something I wanted to chat with you about. Since 2021, Rohit Sharma has got just the 150 in the IPL, average is 23, strike rate is 123. There's a time where he played a different sort of approach for India at the top of the order. At least he was striking it in excess of 140, 150, even though the average wasn't up. For a player of his ability, you normally think he's taken in the same breath as Kohli, Rahul, Dhawan. Now these guys consistently get you 500 runs, even in a bad season. Rohit doesn't quite seem to have that. What's missing in Rohit? The IPL opening bat, Ravi?
I think probably he's got to revisit his role. Probably think of batting time. Think of using that experience, because that's not there in the middle order.
Yeah.
Like before. So probably relook at how he approaches his batting over a period of time, in the sense that if he wants to go, he can go a little hard in the first 3-4 overs. But he's also got to think of batting and staying there till the 15th, 14th or 15th, to get that 70. He's got to think 70.
We're seeing Faf and
at a good strike rate. So, a simple way of doing it is think I'm going to bat 50 balls, come what may. Don't think overs, think balls. I want to play 50 balls. If I play 50, I think my team is in a good position. So he's got to challenge himself and look to play those 50 balls.
Does the role revisiting possibly come with bat somewhere else, with Cameron Green in that team now? Is there a case perhaps for Rohit to say, maybe I can bat 3?
Could be a case. That depends on how the middle order is faring and what is best for the team. But I would still feel at the top, think differently.
Do you sense it's also a challenge for Rohit Sharma, who's enjoyed so much success with such strong Mumbai teams, to now be faced with what looks like the weakest Mumbai bowling? Certainly, it's a good-looking batting lineup. But at this stage of his career, do you sense there is enough motivation to want to pull a team back up? Or do you think it's a challenge for a captain?
That's a challenge for a captain. Huge challenge. It's okay, one thing having star-studded side and then you captaining that side. Make no mistake, he's an outstanding captain.
Yes.
But this is a different test. on how you rally your troops, your youngsters, get a unit in place, get that confidence to go out there and compete as one. That's the challenge now. It's as much as skills on the field as a captain, as much as communication and man management as a captain as well, not coach.
Yep.
His job as well.
Let's say everyone knows this, their bowling isn't strong, but their batting, it still looks really impressive if they fire, if the big guns fire. Rohit, Kishan, Cameron Green, Surya Kumar Yadav, Tilak Verma is in form, Tim David and perhaps Tristan Stubbs to follow. Is there a way you simply say, yeah, we know our bowling is not going to work, we have to try and get 220 every game, or we'll be chasing 220 every game? Can you in any way sort of make that batting fire collectively with either a change in personnel? Devil Brevis is someone we look at. We think, is Stubbs the answer in the middle? Can we throw in Brevis at the top, who always seems to catch the eye or two? Can you change your approach?
You can. And for that kind of lineup, you need to play around one man. One man has to play the role of sheet anchor. And then let the innings revolve around him. And that man is Rohit Sharma.
Right.
You've got to catch the bull by the horns here and say, this is the role. Come what may, this is the role. And it's time now, the others, the younger guys, step up to the plate and take those extra chances so that Rohit can, bat through that innings.
Let's talk about the Delhi Capitals. They've got a few questions of their own. It looks a stronger team on paper, Ravi, but again, they don't have their big guns firing. We're still to see the best of Russo or Rovman Power. Mitch Marsh is still away for his wedding. David Warner seems to be playing a very different type of cricket, and Prithvi Shaw is not firing. Let me start with the last one. Prithvi is not firing. That doesn't always happen.
Yeah, and when that happens at the top, when you have problems at the top with the consistency of runs, then it'll filter down the middle order as well. And like you mentioned, Mitch Marsh is not there. He was there in the first game. He's been in cracking form for Australia. They would have expected him to be a real dangerous player up in the order. Now he's not there. You have to find someone else. There is no Rishabh Pant. You have to find another keeper. So, it's big decisions that Delhi have to take early. They have to take early and come up with the right mix. Watch the nets closely. Watch who's striking the ball well. Who's in good form. And then throw the guy into the mix.
We were discussing Prithvi in the last game against Rajasthan, where he was dismissed for a duck. Rajasthan batted first and got all those runs. And he wasn't in the field. He was introduced as the impact sub. And we're trying to think, for a player like Prithvi, is that a good thing where you don't sort of have him on the field and you just bring him in as a batter? Or is it a challenge that you're cold almost? You've not fielded 20 overs and now suddenly you're opening the batting against Trent Bolt and you have to be red hot. Do you sense this is an element for a player like Prithvi Shaw?
It is. I think a player of his quality at his age, he wants to be in the thick of things all the time. He should want to.
Yeah.
And not say, I'm happiest that I'm an impact player. That's not good. Yeah. It's not a good sign and it won't help, because I know in our time there would have been a few queuing up to 100%. Be impact players. Oh yeah, fielding. Yeah. No fielding, to be sitting inside. Oh, there would have been a queue there.
Yeah. And you can understand it for somebody like a Raidu, who's at the fag end of his career. Yeah, that's fine. But you would want Prithvi Shaw. I'm sure it makes a difference that you want this guy in the field, even though he's not going to bowl. He's not your best fielder either, but you should want him in the field.
Yes, you want, because he's young. You want him to be part of everything.
Yeah.
You want him to be in the mix. You want him contributing either with a brilliant catch or in the field. Get into good habits there. Rather than getting into a habit, I'm only going to bat and then feet up in the dressing room. That's not good for a guy at his age, 23. 22, 23. They
tried Manish Pandey last game, and I'm never a fan of someone being shunted out after 1 or 2 games, but they've done that with Sarfaraz. Now they've got Manish in. They have Yash Dhul, who's come in the back of runs, who's this exciting player we're waiting to watch. Are they making mistakes, sort of looking back with due respect to Manish and not forward, potentially with a Yash Dhul?
I'm surprised he's not played as yet. I'm really surprised, because there's a lot of talk about him. He's young, he's exciting. And, he comes with no baggage. So he's not overawed by any reputation. This guy is this guy is that, Even analysts wouldn't have found enough about him.
Yep.
So go out there and get your act together before you're found out.
Right, what a fascinating chat this was. Ravi Shastri, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. We're going to let Ravi go. He's a busy man, but he'll keep featuring on ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout. Team news coming up very shortly. We'll have Shaun, Tait and Matt Roller in the house as well. And Tim David becomes a big player for the Mumbai Indians. He's got to be Pollard, even though Pollard's now still in the dugout. He's got to do that role for them. We saw glimpses of it in the last game against CSK. And let's find out a little more about what Tim David's like off the field.
Right, drop your phone and drop a catch.
Probably my phone because I've dropped enough catches.
Lose your phone and lose your wallet.
Oh, I think losing your wallet's a really bad feeling. Losing your phone, you can always try and find it.
60-metre boundaries or 80-metre boundaries?
60-metre boundaries.
Rather face a Yorker or a bouncer?
A good Yorker's very hard to hit, so a bouncer.
Rather face pace or face spin?
Spin.
Straight drive or cover drive?
Straight drive.
Pull shot or square cut?
Pull shot.
T20 or T10?
T10.
Bowling a super over or batting a super over?
Batting in a super over.
Cardio or weights?
Weights.
Comedy movies or action movies?
Action.
Read a book or watch a film?
Watch a film.
Beaches or mountains?
I'm from Perth, so it's going to be beaches for me.
New shoes or a new haircut?
I don't get my hair cut very often, you can probably see, so new shoes.
Instagram or TikTok?
I'm not much of a TikToker, so Instagram.
Australia or Singapore?
I've lived in Australia, so Australia.
Beat England or beat India?
Well, that's a good question. I feel like beating them both in, like away in their own countries would be pretty good.
You had to choose one?
I know I'm sitting on the fence.
Rather face Mitchell Stark or Pat Cummins?
Or, well, I've not faced either, so I'd say Pat because Mitch might break my toe.
Kieran Pollard or Andre Russell?
No, you can't ask me that question. I can't split them.
Manchester or Mumbai?
Mumbai.
The Wacker or the Wankhede?
Ooh, Wankhede is a pretty nice place to bat.
Win the T20 Blast or win the 100?
Well, I've won the 100. I kind of parachuted into the final for that, and I've lost the final of the Blast, so let's say win the Blast.
Win the IPL or the PSL?
I've lost the PSL final. I haven't been to an IPL final. I'm going to say win the IPL.
Would you rather hit 6 sixes in an over or get the fastest 100 of all time?
Ooh. I'd love to hit 6 sixes in an over, but I feel like the fastest 100 of all time would be pretty special.
Well, Tim David had to answer, and he would rather win the IPL of the PSL. Let's all go home now. As I welcome back Matt Roller and Shaun Tait in the comforts of our studio. We've given Ravi Shastri some time off. He's already started us off really well, hasn't he? With some big calls for Rohit Sharma, batting a bit differently. I guess for starters, he'll be happy to have won a toss and he'll be fielding first for the first time in this IPL. You think that batting, which knows how their bowling is at times a bit lost or under pressure? They had to bat first at the Chinnaswamy and then they had to bat first at home against CSK. But they will be bowling first in what is a must-win game for both teams. So let's get reactions to that. If you were the Mumbai Indians, this already plays to your advantage, I'm thinking.
Yeah, bowling. Yeah, good call. Absolutely. I think, the toss Rohit sort of mentioned that they'd tried a few other things in the first two games and made a bit of a light-hearted joke about it, which I quite like as well. But mentioned the due factor maybe as well. So yeah, good decision. Yeah.
If you were to pick a favourite into this game with teams that have more things in place, I wonder if you could pick one, Matt.
It's really tough, isn't it? I mean, if we think back to the 2020 season, this was the final. Both sides looked really, really strong that season. And you think how few players there are in common from the teams that they had at that stage. Obviously, a lot of water under the bridge with mega auctions and retentions and all that sort of thing. But they've both changed a lot in personnel. So I think it's a really difficult one to call because both sides still look as though they're gelling. They're both making changes every game. And it's a massive game with a lot on the line at this stage in the season. To be winless at this stage 10 days in is not ideal for either team. Yeah,
and as Ravi pointed out, the league is moving on quickly now. So if you still are winless after 3 games for Mumbai or 4 games for Delhi, playing catch-up could be even harder in a 10-team IPL. So let's have a look at teams. There are changes, which tends to happen when teams don't win. Jofra Archer would have been the big question for the Mumbai Indians. And that question is still one they don't have the answer to. His elbow niggle keeps him out of action for the second successive game. Riley Meredith, part of the franchise last year and brought in as a replacement player for the injured Jai Richardson, now gets his first game in this year's IPL. And they do name, they named 3 overseas in that team. So yes, you expect Tim David to come in the second half. Stubbs has been demoted to the bench. Nehal Vadera's back, had a nice little cameo in the first game against Bangalore. Otherwise, that is pretty much the team. I doubt you'll see Karthikeya Kumar, who was the impact sub in the last game when Mumbai were bowling second. This time, they're likely to bring in David, right? Let's get a thought on the inclusion of Meredith. I wondered who they'd replace Jai Richardson with, Terry. They've got in Meredith. He hasn't had the best of starts for his IPL career, either at Punjab or here. What does he bring to this team?
Yeah, well, he came with big raps a couple of years ago, and I think he went for a decent amount of money too.
Yeah.
But so he came with raps. I remember Shane Warne used to talk him up a lot as well, which was helping his cause. He bowls fast. He hits 150. He bowls on the stumps. Has a crack at a good Yorker, and he's got a good bouncer. So for me, as an out-and-out wicket taker, I like it. I think it adds a great balance to the attack with the other guys around him. I think it's a good sign. I think.
It's not someone who paid the interest to the price that he was bought for. Let go by Punjab after one season and then didn't quite have the time of his life for Mumbai. Not picked up at this auction. Is he still the real deal from what you've seen of him?
Well, I think the interesting one with Meredith is the fact that Mumbai have gone back to that balance that was so successful for them with overseas players, where they had 2 overseas seamers. That was one of the keys to their success for a number of years. If you think in that 2020 season I mentioned earlier, they would have Trent Boult partnered with either James Pattinson or Nathan Coulter, and then Jasprit Bumrah on top of that. So it was always a pretty strong area for them, was their seam bowling department. And obviously it's not quite the case this year with the injuries that they've got, but I think probably a good move to be investing quite heavily in that, especially given how they're bowling, admittedly with very few runs to defend in their first 2 games, but it's looked relatively impotent in the first 2 games.
It's always been the bedrock of Mumbai's success, whether it was Malinga and Johnson or Malinga and McClanagan or Bolt and Malinga. It always turned out to be the way Mumbai won. They went away from that last year looking at troubles that they were having, but Riley Meredith will play today. And perhaps the pace of Mark Wood against Prithvi Shaw and Mitch Marsh in that opening game was something that excited Mumbai too here at the Arun Jaitley Stadium. That game was at Lucknow. Let's have a look at the Delhi team, which makes some changes of its own. They changed the makeup of their side, Matt. They've got in Mustafizur Rahman, now available after international duty, so they've strengthened their bowling too. And Riley Russo is gone, so it looks like they've had to obviously make the sacrifice for an overseas player to get Mustafizur in. Khalil Ahmed is injured, and Yash Dhul, the Indian Under-19 World Cup winning captain, he's had a great domestic season, now gets his first game for the Delhi Capitals. Known to do most of his damage at the top of the order. We'll see where he bats, but that's the team they've gone in with. Just to accommodate Fizz?
Yeah, it's an interesting side, and I think that this issue with Marsh going away for a week or so in the middle of the tournament, or pretty early in the tournament really, is one that's complicated things at the start of the season for Delhi, just because with players coming late, Nortje missed the first game, for example, then arrived, then Marsh goes, it just leads to a sort of slightly unsettled situation. And I think you can probably see that in terms of the overseas balance that they've had. They had, one game of Russo playing alongside Powell in the middle order, then it just feels a little bit complicated at the moment, and I feel like, as we've seen with Delhi making 2-3 changes every game, it doesn't look like a team that necessarily is, hit the ground running and panned out in the way that they'd hoped at the auction.
Yeah, Matt makes the point, Teddy. It looks good when you have 2 international seamers in this team as well, in Anrik Nortje and Mustafizur Rahman, but it doesn't seem like a sustainable model you'd think. Warner's captain, he'll always play, and Mitch Marsh will come back, and that's a different role to what Robin Powell's playing. Let's talk about this game. Is that the best team they could have gone with? They do have Indian seam options. They have Ishan Sharma, they have Chetan Sakaria, but this is the team they've gone with. And they are batting first, so we will see some changes, but they've clearly changed the overseas combination.
Yeah. I think the Fizz coming in, I like that as well. Just the experience, death bowling, big death bowling option, which I think they need as well. Someone like Ishan Sharma, I'm not sure. We're not sure where he's at with things. Obviously, they see him in the nets and make decisions on that as well. So, look, the Fizz coming in again. If he's in great form, I mean, he's one of the best at the death. So, I like that.
What happens when 2 teams have lost every game, 3 for Delhi, 2 for Mumbai, and they come up against each other early in the season? Does that sort of just change how you're feeling? Because you'll be under pressure against Rajasthan or Chennai, and suddenly you come up against them, you feel a bit different?
You don't want to lose this game, because if it's the two cellar dwellers and you lose it, then you go, right, now we've got to, I saw Ricky Ponting said he wants to see his team do a bit of soul searching. If they lose tonight, there's going to be some more of that during the week, I think. So, I think it's actually a massive game. Yeah.
You think no way back for the team that loses this?
Yeah,
I know it's early days, but still.
I think last year you had to win 8 out of 14 games to reach the playoffs. So, especially Delhi, if they go 0-4, suddenly you're looking at 8 wins from 10 games, which is incredible form. So I think it will be really tough for whoever loses this game tonight to have any chance of a run at the playoffs. I think it's a huge game, as Shaun says.
Ravi Shastri, some interesting comments on Rohit Sharma revisiting his role, perhaps. Now, at least he'll have the advantage to know what he's going to chase. But do you receive that well for a player like Rohit? We saw Faf and Kohli, they play the anchor role, and we still were somewhat observant, if not critical, of whether that leads you to use your resources well. This is a good-looking batting lineup, but no one firing.
So that's the thing, it's a good point, obviously, Ravi makes, absolutely, and good thinking. But I think as well, you look at the batting lineup, as you just said, and he still should have that luxury to go hard, at the top, because he's got the guys behind him. But as we know, they're not really firing. So again, maybe he does have to look at that and go, okay, if I just hang around for a bit longer, and also maybe try and be there towards the end as well. But I don't know if Rohit's going to do that. I think he's the sort of guy that does show faith in his side, and he's probably got to, and hopefully he clubs them around at the top, and away they go.
Yeah, I think it's a really good thing for Rohit that they're chasing. I think we've seen, because of the fact that Mumbai have had a pretty weak bowling attack on paper at the start of the season, they've known that they have to go relatively hard in those first 2 games, and especially when you consider the venues they were playing at, the one game at the Chinnaswamy, one at the Wankhede. So I think it will add some clarity because of the fact, you saw against Chennai, he actually went pretty hard in the power play. I think he got 31 off 21 and was playing some big shots. So I think as we say, it should add a lot of clarity, the idea that he's got a score on the board and there will be a situation to play rather than the blank canvas, which sometimes can complicate things when you're out of form, especially. I'm
also curious to see where Yashdul bats for Delhi. He's an exciting talent. He's had a great domestic season, and perhaps just the injection of something new that they need. It almost seemed like they were trying the same sort of things. Manish Pandey's come in and kept his place. Sarfaraz has now, you could say, had a fair run of games and not done much. Sometimes just throw in a new kid, let him have a license.
I think that's it, like you said at the start, when you've got 2 teams at the bottom, you're going to see changes, and that's a good thing if you've got a young squad. You can throw a couple of guys in when you are having some struggles and see if it comes off. But I am a little bit concerned still. Like, Pandey's a big one, actually. He needs to make some runs because that number 3, 4, 5 for Delhi is not... It looks a bit shaky without Mitch Marsh there, I think.
All right. When's he back? Does anyone know when he's back?
Hopefully his wife is willing to have a honeymoon in Delhi, because for Delhi's sake, maybe she can go to Agra down the road and look around.
Where did you go? Did you go there?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I spent enough time in India without having my honeymoon here.
Yeah,
so.
all right. But did you have a honeymoon?
We sort of went to... I did a bit of a weird one in Hong Kong.
A weird one?
Yeah, like a quick in and out in Hong Kong.
Well done, Shaun Tait. Yeah, he was fast at everything, isn't he? Fast man, Shaun Tait. Right, good times. You didn't get married during peak cricket season, though, did you?
No, come on.
All right, fine.
I wouldn't do that.
All right, fine. It's a different day. It's good wishes to Mitch Marsh. Let's hope he's back soon. As it turns out, though, I'm curious to know the choice of batter Delhi have chosen to keep in the form of Rovman Powell. Because Russo, you think, would have also liked a nice long run, and he is likelier to do what Marsh does in this team. Are you surprised that they've stuck with Rovman Powell?
Well, they might be seeing it as a sort of a role clarity thing, so they might be looking at the balance when they come back. They might be giving Powell a big run of games, having done pretty well for them last season, and we know the power that he has at the back end, and him and Marsh play slightly different roles, whereas Russo's role is more similar to Marsh. So I wonder if it's sort of a decision made for tonight with a couple of games' time in mind, if that makes sense. Although I suppose with Norton 3 on the board so far, they can't really be affording to think too far down the line because they need to start winning tonight. Yeah,
do you think it's a slightly more desperate game for Delhi? Mumbai also want to win, but Delhi played that one game of 4 losses. It's tough to come back from that. Right, Matt Roller, what do you got for us today?
Well, I think that one of the interesting battles we'll see in today's game will be Axar Patel against Mumbai's left-handers. We've obviously seen, Ishan Kishan is a good player of left-arm spin. Also, they have other options in the team.
The Chennai game, left-arm spin was their downfall.
But that was it, exactly. So we saw how effective Jadeja and Santner were against that Mumbai batting lineup, even against their left-handers, in fact. So it will be fascinating to see how Akshay goes, because of the fact that he's been pretty poor against left-handers over the past season and a bit. I think he's going at over 10 and over against left-handers compared to around about a run a ball against right-handers. And we saw in the Delhi game against Gujarat, Warner didn't use him at all in the run chase, partly because of the dew, I think, but also because of the fact they had left-handers in. So it will be really interesting to see whether Akshay gets a game or gets a bowl. Obviously, he's got a game, but whether he gets a bowl against Mumbai's left-handers and how exactly the skipper decides to use him.
All right. It seemed like a matchup that didn't favour Jadeja bowling in that MICSK game, Teddy, but David Warner's captaincy, I guess, will come into examination this time too. Warner tends to be a different captain and energy when he's getting runs. His form doesn't quite seem to be there. Do you think, knowing David Warner, that would affect how tactically sharp or switched on he'd be?
You'd like to think he's been around long enough now and been pretty successful in the IPL that it shouldn't make a difference. But again, I think as you get older as well, a lot of players talk about they tend to feel the pressure a bit more in their last couple of seasons.
Yep. Batting
or captaincy, it's a common theme. So yeah, maybe it does affect him. I think with him, he's making runs, but the way he's getting them is, they probably need him just to hurry things along a bit. And I think the best David Warner is when he's going after it. He's so damaging. He's intimidating to bowl to when he's going after it. And I think, I'd like to see him get back to that sort of style for sure.
Australia tried him in the middle order in that ODI series. I'm not sure what role he's going to play for Australia come the World Cup. But now they've got Dhul there, who's a specialist opener. We'll find out in a few minutes who walks out when they come out to bat. But is there a case for Warner to bat in the middle, looking at the hitting and missing of Delhi's middle order too?
Yeah, good call. Not a bad point, actually. I mean, it's worth mentioning and worth talking about because, that, like we said, that sort of 3, 4, 5 areas looking a little bit shaky right now. But I think he's going to come out tonight and open the batting. But going forward, depending on what happens this evening. Yeah.
Is he receptive though? There are some batters who've batted up the top all their life, and you think there's no way they're ever going to say, I'll bat anywhere lower. There was a time Punjab batted Chris Gayle at 3 because they just couldn't fit him anywhere else.
Yeah.
Sunrisers had to do that when they had Bairstow, Roy and Williamson, I think, all in good form. Is one of the kind that would receive batting at 3?
I think depends what happens with Marsh.
Let's take today's game.
No, I think he opens today.
He's walked out, so we got the answer to that. That's not going to happen.
There you go. Yeah.
So I guess Dhul 3, Manish Pandey 4. I think Tom Moody's brought out the point before. Manish gets all his runs at 3, and you really don't want to be taking a domestic Indian player who's been goated at the top and putting him at 4 first up.
Yeah, it's
or is that the only way?
And then where do you fit Akshay in as well? Because he's obviously been in pretty good form with the bat, albeit in different formats. And as a left-hander, maybe that would be an option to block the use of Pierce Chawla through the middle as well if Warner's out early. So it'll be interesting to see how they fit that all together. But I think as Shaun says, it looks like a much stronger team on paper with Marsh at 3 and Powell at 6 than it does with just the 2 overseas batters in Warner and Powell at the moment.
It's probably a good thing that Delhi are also batting first for one reason, that they could use Powell a little more luxuriously. I think last time they sent him in at a time when he needed 4 a ball to win. Yeah.
He's a huge. I think Powell's a massive player. He's the. We'll continue to talk about him, how much they use him with the ball and whatever. But with the bat, he's huge for them, especially with Marsh out. I know we keep going back to Marsh. He's not there at the end of the day, but I think it makes Powell's role just so much more important.
They want one gun to fire, right? If Powell gets a 70, you suddenly feel, that's something taken care of. Right now, you're still not sure. If Powell doesn't get a score here, you're thinking, should we get Marsh in? For Powell then, or what are we going to do next time around? There are all sorts of, something needs to fire today. What's their best chance? Is it Warner? Does Warner hold everything?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think Warner's the guy they got to go to. He's got all the runs in the IPL. He's a captain, and like I said, if he gets after him and shows that aggression and that intimidation, huge play. But Powell's, I think, reading before the tournament, Ponting talking about him, I think Ponting's a big fan of him. I think he likes him. He certainly likes him in the team. So he might get that extended run as well.
Okay, predictions. Delhi batting first. It's a tough game to call. Let's start just with the first innings score. Matt Roller?
Well, it looks like there's one short side, so I reckon we might see a little higher score than usual at this ground, so I reckon I'll go punchy with 200.
Do you think 200? Okay, against the Mumbai bowling, it's never a bad shout. Teddy?
I'm 180. Just a safe 180.
Safe 180. Safe dull 180, yeah. You know what, I got a funny feeling about this game. And I think Mumbai might actually restrict them to something. So I'm going to go below 180. Okay. Let's see if that happens.
Like a 165 or something. What do you think?
Yeah, something horrible. I just think both these, and I'm not even going to say that'll mean Delhi lose.
Yeah.
Mumbai may mess it up even then. Anyway, bizarre game to call, but it's a good one. Let's see how it pans out in 20 overs. We'll pick up the chat with Shaun, Tait, Matt Roller on ESPN Cricket for T20 timeout. Download our mobile app, head to the App Store and Play Store, and get your updates and the fastest live scores you can from the world of cricket. It's a big game, so we'll see you at the end of the Delhi innings to see where each team stands.